Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. The Sunblood is back. One of my favorite models from many years ago, the Saurus Sunblood, is making its return to Age of Sigmar via the Warhammer Underworlds Warband, the Jaws of Itzel. We got a new Warscroll for something called the Sunblood Pack. So, it's got some unique abilities. It actually has some synergies that work with some of our other units, which is kind of rare for Seraphon. But can this unit bring us up to a competitive level? Probably not, but it is a really fun war scroll, and I like it. It's a little unique, and we'll do a war scroll review of the Sunblood pack. Now, you might have the ability to go ahead and field this, even if you don't have one. You can see, I as soon as this thing dropped, I went out and purchased one. I needed to update my Saurus Sunblood. It does have a hero, but he's the same profile as everybody else in the unit. But it is that Sunblood, classic Sunblood, updated to plastic, along with two Saurus warriors to tag along, and then a little token that goes along with it. I've been playing with multiple units of this on the table, and it's kind of fun. I've used my old Sunblood. You can kind of see it here. I have my old Sunblood that I was able to put in there. Maybe you have a Source Old Blood. You could proxy that. Or if you've got some old stuff like the Eternity Ward, you can throw some warriors next to them, and you'll be able to make this unit fairly easy. All right, let's take a look at the War Scroll here. First off, I do want to caveat, we got the Battle Scroll recently, and notably on the Battle Scroll, in the points column over here where normally there's abilities listed, it does not say it can be taken as a favored spawning. I'm hoping that's a mistake because in the app, it does say it can be taken as a favored spawning. But the PDF that's released by Games Workshop is the authoritative source. So until they update that, the stuff in the app is incorrect, unfortunately, and that does make this unit a little bit harder to field. All right, but let's get on to the War Scroll review here. So that caveat aside, this is a hero. It is tagged hero. You can see that down here. It's tagged as a hero, and that's important because it is a bit of an odd unit. There's 3 models in it, but it's tagged as a hero. So we'll get into some implications of that here in a little bit. Sunblood Pack has a 5-inch move, pretty slow. Health of 3, but there are 3 models, so that means it has a health of 9 total when you're looking at the entire unit. There's nothing that says once you've lost 2 of these models, it's no longer a hero or anything, so it stays a hero until it's completely wiped. It does have a 4-up save, which is pretty bad, but we'll look at some tricks it has for that. Control of 2. That's per model, so that means this unit has a control of 6, which is actually pretty good for a hero. That will outnumber other heroes in general. All right, cell stack weapons. It has 3 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend, 2 damage. Nothing too fancy. Now, when you have 3 of those, you're talking about 9 attacks total, doing 2 damage. That's not bad. For like a little foot hero, that would be better than expected. For a big monster, doesn't quite match up to that, but it's not horrible. It's very mediocre. So far, nothing's really blown us away. We've got some good passive abilities here. The first one is Star Spawn. Ignore the first damage point that would be allocated to friendly Source and Kroxigor units each phase while they're wholly within 12 of this unit. Ooh, I like this. This is a fun one. This is the synergy it has with other units in our army. So this will work for itself, as well as any Source or Kroxigor. Now, this isn't limited to like infantry or cavalry or anything like that. So it'll work for, let's say, Agrodons. It'll work for a Carnosaur. It'll work for Source Warriors or Source Guard. Kroxigor, obviously, there's only those 2 units of Kroxigor, but this is an interesting ability. It's not like super powerful. In general, this unit has 9 health, effectively 10, because it's going to ignore 1. That's still easy to clear, even on a 4-up save. So it'll save you from some plink damage if they're hitting you in like magic, shooting, melee, charge. This'll help negate some of that, and it does add up. The next one is Scaled Protectors. Ignore negative and positive modifiers to save rolls for this unit. Ooh, so an ethereal essential unit. It's always going to be on a 4-up save no matter what. This is an incredibly good ability when you have a good save. When you have a mediocre save, sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. If you run a Carnosaur with Being of the Stars, so that Carnosaur has a 4-up save all the time, basically ethereal, you'll know what I mean. There are some games where that Carnosaur just won't die. You're making all those 4-up saves, and it's a beautiful thing. There's some times where you won't make any of those 4-up saves, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no buffs you can give it to make that save better. It's just a 4-up all the time, and that Carnosaur just dies. So far, my experience has kind of been the same way. Sometimes this unit sticks around and is a huge pain for the opponent to get rid of, and sometimes it just gets instantly deleted. So while that ethereal is good, we're going to look at what that means as far as like effective health and stuff. So we're going to have some mathematical breakdown here in a few minutes. All right, so I mean, I like the ability. It does have some uses. If you're going into like metas that have a lot of rend, maybe not a lot of mortals, then this is an excellent ability. The last ability here, any combat phase, Venomite Swarm. So in the box here, you get a little token. It's right here. You get a little token that comes in there. It only comes with one, unfortunately. And that token is what represents this ability. If this unit's Venomite's token is on the battlefield, roll a d3 on a 1. Remove this unit's Venomite's token from the battlefield on a 2-up, inflict the amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. All right, so you get a little bit of extra d3 mortals. Unfortunately, because there's only one token, you're going to fail this 1/3 of the time, and then that token is gone. You never get this ability again. So this has a high chance of failure, and I wouldn't really factor this into the unit, to be honest. It's not reliable enough to do anything. If you had 2 tokens, I would feel much better about that, because even if you fail the first one, you're likely to succeed with one of them. Whatever. I think it does pair well with the Sun Claw battle formation, where you're doing at the end of the game, you're at the end of the turn, you're doing a pile-in move and doing D3 mortal wounds, kind of the same roll. So you'd have a chance to do 2 D3 mortal wounds out of this unit if you took it, but it does have a high chance of failure here, so do with it what you will. So it is 150 points. Because it's a hero, it does have regiment options, which are pretty interesting. So regiment options here, you can take any Seraphon with this hero. That is, that helps you free up some stuff to, if you have like a Saurus heavy list and you want to bring some other things, this will allow you to do that. So it does make regiment building a little bit easier. I really hope they bring back the Favoured spawning here, this ability, because it was quite useful. This would allow you to put like Lord Croak, some Croxagore, and then the Sunblood, all in the same regiment. And so I hope they bring that back into its actual battle profile here, so that it's a little bit easier to slot into an army. Because this isn't a unit you're really going to spam, it doesn't feel like, because it's a hero. You can't put more than one in a regiment at the moment. And so you're tapped out at 5, theoretically. So I guess you could go above that if you wanted to go into the auxiliary regiments and stuff. But all right, so we've kind of talked about its Warscroll. Everything on it seems fine. Nothing like too broken. Has some cool tricks. It has some good abilities there. But I wanted to look at like what's its damage and effective health compared to other things that are about its same price point. So I ran through all the calculations here using a Math Hammer type app. And here's our average damage. I've got it sorted by 4-ups. And you can see the Sunblood is coming in near the bottom. Its damage is a little lackluster. I didn't put a whole lot of buffs on any of these units, so this is just kind of raw Warscrolls. But Sunbloods aren't really going to be that buffable a unit. You'd probably end up spending those buffs on other things where they just have more attacks and stuff. So, but overall, they're towards the bottom for that. But they're cheap, maybe average damage per 100 points. This is kind of gives you an idea of how effective they are per points. They're still fairly close to the bottom. So I think I would have liked to see the Sunblood Pack come in a little bit cheaper than 150 to make it worth its points there. What about effective health? So looking at effective health here is kind of interesting because it does have a 4-up save, ignoring 1, So you essentially have 10 health on an ethereal save. That's why you see it's flat across the board at 20 effective health, no matter what the rend is, but only 10 versus mortal wounds. How is that versus one rend? Effective health versus one rend. You can see it's sorted by this one. Bastiladon is hitting at the top. It has a 2-up save. That makes it quite effective. It's coming middle of the pack, unfortunately. If we look at the same thing per 100 points, again, it's not doing all that well. You can pause on any of these and study these if you want to. I just kind of wanted to highlight where the Sunblood's coming in. As we get more rend, maybe that becomes more effective, and we see that it does, versus 2 rend attacks coming into the unit. The Sunblood Pack is quite a bit more effective. They're still outshone by the just plain old Saurus Warriors, though. Interesting. If we look at 3 rend, finally, Sunblood Pack comes out on top. They are the most effective health per 100 points versus 3 rend units. Now, how common is that? Not real common, but it is out there. I think the best comparison, though, is not necessarily just straight up Warscroll or Warscroll, because even though Sunblood shine here, they don't take any of the other buffs that we have. So we have a lot of defensive buffs in Seraphon. So we have Itzel, which is an asterism that allows you to subtract 1 from rend from melee attacks coming to your army as long as you're in your territory. So Sunblood doesn't care about that, because they won't benefit from that at all. Also, we have all out defense. We have, which gives you +1 to save. The Warriors have a unique ability to actually get on an objective and get another +1 to save. So there's some other things that can make you tougher to kill. So I wanted to compare that, a likely scenario here for how you would have these things lined up. So Warriors with Itzel, -1 rend, on an objective, +1 save, and all out defense. You're becoming very tough. Guard, Source Guard with a ward from a Slann or Croak, plus Itzel, plus all out defense is just so hard to shift those guys. So we're looking here, and all of these versus 3-up rend are actually better than Source Blood, than the Sunblood Pack. Even if we look at the effective health per 100 points, so how effective are they for their point value? The Sunblood Pack comes in last. That was kind of disappointing. I was hoping that they would do a little bit better here for effective health. But Warriors with their buffs are worth quite a bit more. Guard with their buffs are worth quite a bit more here than Sunblood Pack. So what's the use of Sunblood Pack? And I think it's in cases where you're not going to need any of those types of buffs. So it's ethereal. It does okay damage, not great damage. It's decently survivable. It will get killed. It has the potential to do a couple little mortal wounds here and there. I think what it really wants to do is be like a thorn in the side to the opponent. So teleporting them into the opponent's territory would be a good idea. There's a couple different ways to do that. You can do that with the Eternal Star Host battle formation. Any wizard could teleport them. You do have to roll a dice for it, but that would be a good way to do that. Also, the Caradron Overlord Regiment of Renown just went up in points, but it's still a useful Regiment of Renown. Has an ability that lets you teleport friendly units, friendly infantry units. So you could teleport this unit that way. I think once this is on the attack over in the opponent's territory, it becomes a pretty good nuisance piece. They're going to have to dedicate more to kill this thing than they probably want to. Because it does have that ethereal, you'll have to hit it with something big or a lot of attacks to make sure get some of that damage through, like big damage attacks to get through that ethereal. Or just a whole bunch of really bad attacks. That's probably the better thing to attack it with, to be honest. All right, so because it is a hero, it has some other unique things that we can do. We can assign it heroic traits and artifacts. And that's pretty interesting because it is 3 models. It has a decent number of attacks. Maybe there's something fun we can do with it here. If we look at our heroic traits, the first one is Being of the Stars. That one is not really useful. Oh, it's not useful at all. It's making something ethereal. This unit is already ethereal. Don't worry about that one. A Beastmaster is not a bad thing to do because if you let's say you have Lord Croak as your other hero, and then you have the Sunblood Pack as your second hero. You might want Beastmaster to make your cavalry, your monsters go faster. It can go on there. It can make your cavalry and monsters go faster. Not bad. Reptilian Cunning is an interesting one. If this unit charged, a friendly unit wholly within 12 that uses all-out attack, in the combat phase, no command points are spent. Just another little way to buff up units. You want Saurus and Kroxigor in range of this ability because they'll be ignoring one Ren. So let's say these things are your screen for your Kroxigor maybe, and they both end up charging into combat. The Kroxigor are going to be ignoring one damage, and then they're also going to be getting all-out attack for free. So is that great? I mean, it's not great. It's okay. The new heroic traits we have that came with the Scourge of Gyran is Keeper of the Old Ways. It's an okay one. If you achieve an asterism, then you get to pick 2 on in the top of 3rd, which is fine. I think probably the most interesting one here is Child of the Stars. If this unit would be destroyed, before removing it from play, roll a dice. On a 3-up, this unit is not destroyed, and any remaining damage points inflicted on it have no effect. Then heal D3 to this unit. This unit cannot use this ability again for the rest of the battle. This one becomes interesting because it can be a difficult unit to kill. So imagine you teleport this unit, they dedicate something to kill it, and maybe they don't straight up kill it right off the bat. So it's sticking around a little bit. That 4-up Ethereal came in clutch. Now on their next turn, they're stuck in combat. Now they've got to kill it for real. They do. You roll that 3-up, and now it's back. You heal D3. There are going to be times where when it comes back, you heal D3. You might be able to rally it on the next turn and get, a model or 2 back. So it could be useful that way. So I like that heroic trait on this unit. I think that one's pretty interesting. It plays into the style that this little hero unit wants to do, I think. Chosen of Quetzal, you'll probably never use. I mean, this would be you would want to essentially move a non-skink unit, or a skink non-monster unit, which would be fine, I guess, if you're taking this to take some skinks, but he doesn't buff skinks, so you're probably not going to take that one. There are some artifacts that you can also load them up with artifacts. Codal Familiar is only for wizards, so that won't really matter. Well, I guess it's not only for wizards. You could take this because you just have to be in combat range of a wizard, but it costs 20 points now. You're probably not going to do that. Incandescent Retresses, any hero phase, heal D3. That could be nice for this unit if it was like a single model, but being 3 models here, each with 3 health each, that's probably going to have less of a chance to become useful. I guess it could come into play if you were to bring it back with the heroic trait, and now let's say it only has 1 wound on it. Maybe you can heal it in the hero phase with this. That could be useful there. But in general, I have found that there's not a whole lot of times where you're gonna make too much use out of that. Blood Rage Pendant is an interesting one, but I think it falls apart once you realize how specific it has to be. So, Blood Rage Pendant, add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons. That's good because they're 2 damage each. There's 3 models, so that's basically an extra 3 attacks. That's better on this unit than that thing is on anything else. So even if you were to put this on a Carnosaur, the Carnosaur's weapon's only doing 3 damage on the charge. So already this one is potentially double that. So this is potentially double as good on this unit as it is a Carnosaur. So not bad. You can add 2 to the number of attacks if damage points allocated to this unit is equal to or greater than half of the unit's health characteristic rounding up. Now this is where that becomes problematic because the health characteristic is 3. That's its health characteristics, okay? So if you have taken 1 damage on one of these models, it's not going to work. If you've taken 2, you add 2 damage to their attack profiles. That's really good. If you've taken 3, the unit is dead. That model is dead, and now you have no damage allocated to this unit. So that's important to understand. It's that it's not like you're sitting there banking 3 that have been damaged to it. No, it's gone. That damage is not allocated to the unit anymore. That model is dead. So that extra 2 attacks only works very specifically when you've taken 2 damage to a model. So kind of weird. You will have like 3 chances at that. As each model dies, you would have 3 chances to hit that exact number, but it is going to be a little bit more rare. But if you're at a loss for other artifacts to take, this one is not bad for it. It does add a little bit more punch. You can see the damage here as we're looking. It's a significant amount. You're adding about 50% damage to it by the time you get 2 extra attacks on there. Add like an all-out attack or something, and maybe you'll able to kill something with them. So it's not bad. Not a bad option there. Let's take a look at a list. This was one list from maybe 2 weeks ago. Michael Bernstein did really well with this. I think he went 4-1 at OFCC GT, and he has the Sunblood Pack in his list. So let's take a look at this real quick, how he's worked it out. He's got Lord Croak, a Basildon with Ark of Sotek with Ancient Defender. We've got Croxigal. Wait, Ancient Defender. Ancient Defender on a Basildon with Ark of Sotek, so he gets +1 to hit for his snakes and his tail. I think I would have done Armor Cruncher on that, but maybe he's obviously he did well, so maybe he's got something there. Croxigal Reinforce, and then Sunblood Pack. You can see the loadout there. Incandescent Retresses, so it heals, so he did take the healing, and then Child of the Stars, so it has a chance to come back when it dies. A very good setup there. Realm Shaper Engine, and then we've got some KO, the KO Regiment of Renown. Now note, some of this has increased and decreased, but it still works. So KO Regiment went up, Realm Shaper went down, Croxagore both went down, Croak went down. And so this would still be a perfectly fine list. We will have the problem of the Sunblood Pack is going to have to be in its own regiment now, unfortunately, because it lost in the battle profile that very specific verbiage that says it could be taken in somebody else's regiment. So that's kind of disappointing. But we can see a very good list here that did well with it, and I'm betting he was teleporting this thing at some point over into the opponent's territory to become a nuisance, because that's good. Well, that's what KO is good for, that regiment around, and I think that's kind of where the Sunblood Pack shines, really. So, all right, that's a Warscroll. I don't think it is like a spammable unit. I don't think you're going to see 10 of these in a list until they get significantly cheaper. But I do think they can have a decent role. You go get these things tied up with something that has high rend, and you're ignoring all that. And get them over in the opponent's territory, they become kind of a thorn in the side for the opponent to have to deal with. So I like the unit. I've actually been having fun with it. There's times where it will just feel amazing. They just can't kill it. There'll be one left. They have to spend 2 turns killing that last model to the unit, and then it comes back, and now they're stuck in with it again. And when that happens, it just feels glorious. There will be times, I mean, if you've ever played the Ethereal Carnosaur, there will be times where it just gets wiped off the board instantly, and you think, why did I bring this? you fail that Child of the Stars roll, it doesn't come back. But hey, that's Warhammer. All right, that's the Sunblood Pack. I like it. I think it's a fun unit. I don't think it's going to significantly shift our win percentages, but it is a lot of fun to play with. So, all right, guys. That's it for the Warscroll review of the Sunblood Pack. Let me know if you guys like it. Have you been playing with it? And how many are you going to take on a list? All right, see you guys later.